Moonlit sparks at the beach stretched endlessly under the velvet night sky, a canvas of silver sand kissed by the moon's pale glow. Tiki torches lined the shore, their flames dancing in the warm breeze, casting golden flickers across the crowd. The air buzzed with the electric pulse of the party. Music thumped from speakers nestled in the dunes, a blend of sultry beats and tropical rhythms that made hips sway and laughter rise. The ocean's soft roar wove through the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversation, grounding the revelry in something timeless. It was the kind of night where anything could happen, where the ordinary could spark into something unforgettable. Johnny Sins leaned against a weathered palm tree, its rough bark cool against his back. A chilled beer dangled from his fingers, condensation dripping onto the sand. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd, not searching but observing, taking in the kaleidoscope of faces lit by firelight. His shaved head gleamed under the moonlight, and his white linen shirt, unbuttoned at the collar, clung lightly to his muscular frame. Johnny was no stranger to attention. His easy confidence and chiseled features drew glances like moths to a flame. But tonight, he wasn't chasing the usual fleeting connections. He wanted something real, something that would linger past the sunrise. Across the bonfire, Stella Cardo stood with a cluster of friends, her laughter a bright note in the night's symphony. Her blonde hair cascaded in loose waves, catching the fire's glow like a halo, and her flowy dress, a soft ivory number that hugged her curves before flaring at the hips, swayed with the breeze, teasing the edges of her silhouette. She was radiant, not just in beauty but in presence, her energy pulling others into her orbit. Stella sipped a cocktail, the rim of the glass brushing her lips as she listened to her friend's story, but a prickle of awareness tugged at her senses. Someone was watching her. She turned, her eyes sweeping the crowd until they locked with his. Johnny's gaze was direct, unguarded, a mix of warmth and curiosity that sent a shiver down her spine. His lips curved into a half smile, not cocky but inviting, like he'd seen something worth knowing. Stella's heart skipped, a flutter she hadn't expected. She tilted her head, her own smile slow and deliberate, a silent challenge. It was all the invitation he needed. Johnny pushed off the palm tree, his stride purposeful but unhurried as he crossed the sand. The crowd parted naturally, as if sensing his intent. He stopped a step away from her, close enough for her to catch the faint scent of his cologne, something woody and clean, like cedar and sea salt. "Nice night for a party," he said, his voice low and smooth, carrying a hint of mischief that made her pulse quicken. "It is," Stella replied, her Russian accent softening the edges of her words, giving them a musical lilt. Her eyes flicked over him, taking in the broad shoulders, the way his shirt stretched subtly across his chest, the easy way he stood, like he owned the space without trying. "You look like you belong here." "Maybe I do," he said, his grin widening. "I'm Johnny, and you are." "Stella," she answered, holding his gaze. There was something about him, magnetic, unguarded, that made her want to keep talking. Her friends had drifted back into their own conversation, leaving the two of them in a bubble of their own making. "Stella," he repeated, testing the name like it was a sip of fine wine. "That suits you. You've got a spark, like you're about to steal the whole night." She laughed, a soft, genuine sound that made his chest tighten. "Careful, Johnny. Flattery might get you somewhere. I'm counting on it." He shot back, his eyes glinting with playfulness. They drifted away from the bonfire, drawn to a quieter stretch of beach where the music was a distant pulse and the waves took center stage. The sand was cool under their feet, and the moonlight painted a silver path along the water's edge. They walked side by side, not touching but close enough to feel the pull between them. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Stella spoke of her love for spontaneous adventures, of nights spent chasing sunsets in far-off places, while Johnny shared stories of his travels, the cities he'd seen, the moments that grounded him amid the chaos of his work. They both craved authenticity, connections that cut through the noise of the world. You ever feel like you're running towards something, but you don't know what it is, Stella asked, her voice softer now, her eyes on the horizon where the sea met the stars. Johny nodded, his gaze on her profile all the time. That's why nights like this matter. You find someone who gets it, even for a moment, and it's like the world slows down. She turned to him, her eyes searching his. Is that what this is? A moment. He held her gaze, his voice steady. Depends on what we make of it. A cool breeze swept over the beach, stirring her hair and sending a shiver through her. Johny noticed and shrugged off his jacket, draping it over her shoulders. His fingers brushed her collarbone, a fleeting touch that sent a spark through her. She didn't pull away, instead leaning slightly into the warmth of the fabric, his scent lingering in it. "Thanks," she murmured, her voice barely above the waves. "Don't mention it," he said, but his eyes said more, lingering on her lips before meeting her gaze again. They stood there, the space between them charged with unspoken possibilities. The party was winding down, the crowd thinning as the music softened to a mellow acoustic strum. Johny nodded toward a row of beachside bungalows in the distance, their wooden frames glowing faintly under string lights. "Want to keep this going somewhere quieter?" he asked, his tone open, leaving the choice entirely to her. Stella's smile was slow, deliberate, a flicker of boldness in her eyes. "Lead the way." They walked to a small bungalow, its windows open to the night air, letting in the rhythmic crash of the waves. Inside, the space was intimate white walls adorned with driftwood art, a plush couch in soft gray, a single lamp casting a warm amber glow. The air carried the faint scent of salt and sandalwood, wrapping them in a cocoon of quiet intensity. They sat on the couch, closer now, their knees brushing, the contact sending a jolt through both of them. Stella set his jacket aside, her movements slow, deliberate. She reached out, tracing a finger along the edge of his hand, her touch light but intentional. Johnny's breath hitched, his eyes darkening as he watched her. "Your trouble," he murmured, his voice husky, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "The good kind," she teased, leaning closer, her breath warm against his skin. Their first kiss was slow, exploratory, like they were tasting the moment, savoring its newness. Her lips were soft, yielding, but there was a fire beneath her touch, a quiet confidence that matched his own. His hand found her waist, pulling her closer, while hers slid to his chest, feeling the steady thump of his heartbeat. The kiss deepened, a dance of give and take, each brush of lips and flicker of tongue stoking the heat between them. They pulled back, breathless, foreheads resting together as they laughed softly, the sound mingling with the waves outside. "You're good at that," Stella said, her voice low, playful. "You're not so bad yourself," Johny replied, his thumb brushing her cheek. The night unfolded in a slow burn of connection. They talked more, sprawled on the couch, sharing stories of their lives, her childhood in Russia, filled with snowy winters and dreams of far-off places, his early days in Pittsburgh, hustling to carve out a life that felt like his own. Each revelation drew them closer, peeling back layers, building a bridge between them. Their hands wandered, his tracing the curve of her shoulder, hers skimming the line of his jaw, each touch a spark that threatened to ignite. When they moved to the bedroom, it was with a shared understanding, a mutual pull that needed no words. The room was simple, dominated by a wide bed with crisp white sheets, the windows open to the ocean's song. The moonlight spilled across the floor, casting their shadows in soft relief. They stood close, the air thick with anticipation, but there was no rush. Johnny's fingers brushed the strap of her dress, a question in his touch, and Stella's nod was all the answer he needed. Their movements were a choreography of desire, unhurried and deliberate. Her dress slipped to the floor, a whisper of fabric, and his shirt followed, revealing the hard planes of his body. They explored each other with reverence, hands mapping curves and contours, lips finding sensitive spots that drew soft gasps and quiet laughter. The ocean's rhythm outside seemed to guide them, a steady pulse that mirrored their own. The intimacy that followed was a private symphony, a blend of touch and breath, of whispered words and shared heat, building to a crescendo that left them trembling, entwined, their bodies slick with sweat and satisfaction. They collapsed together, hearts racing, the sheets tangled around them. Stella's head rested on Johnny's chest, his arm draped around her, holding her close. The world outside faded, leaving only the sound of their breathing and the waves beyond the window. They didn't speak for a while, content in the afterglow, the quiet intimacy of the moment wrapping them like a blanket. As dawn began to paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, Stella stirred, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his skin. "This was unexpected," she said, her voice soft, a smile in her tone. Johnny chuckled, his hand tightening around her. The best things usually are. They lingered in bed, talking in low murmurs about nothing and everything. Favorite foods, secret fears, the places they still wanted to see. The sunlight crept through the window, warming the room, but they were reluctant to move to let the world intrude. Eventually, hunger and curiosity pulled them from the bed. They dressed slowly, stealing glances and smiles, the ease between them unbroken. Outside, the beach was quiet, the remnants of the party scattered across the sand, empty cups, a forgotten sandal, a smoldering bonfire. They walked hand in hand, the morning air cool and fresh, the ocean sparkling under the rising sun. They found a small cafe nearby, its wooden deck overlooking the water, and ordered coffee and pastries, sitting close as they watched the waves. "So, what now?" Stella asked, her eyes meeting his over the rim of her cup. There was no pressure in her question, just curiosity and openness to whatever came next. Johnny leaned back, his smile easy but thoughtful. "Now, we see where this goes. No rush, no rules, just us." She nodded, her own smile mirroring his. "I like that." They spent the morning together, walking the beach, dipping their toes in the surf, laughing as the waves chased them back. The connection they'd forged in the night held strong, a thread of possibility that neither wanted to break. As the sun climbed higher, they made plans to meet again, to explore this spark that had ignited under the moonlight. The world could wait a little longer. For now, it was just them, the sand beneath their feet, and the promise of more nights like this. Nights filled with laughter, touch, and the kind of magic that only happens when two souls find each other by chance.